any story comes out of this particular election. Now, just before I bring in our Sunday night political panel, Labor legend Graham Richardson and New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes, only one man called the result of this poll before 7 o'clock last night.
Virtually every early swing is to Labor. And when you see that, what you see is Labor's going to win. And I know that people don't like early calls this early, but every booth is showing the same thing. And I think when you get to that stage, I'm prepared to put my hand up and say, we're home. Where's the champagne?
Richo, welcome to the show. You knew it was on so early, didn't you?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. I don't think it means I'm a genius. You just have to look at the numbers. And as they kept coming in, they were, just more and more favouring Labor. And so I thought it was a pretty easy call.
Did you win by default? Those numbers, those primary numbers, they are ridiculously low.
Well, I think it's pretty alarming that both sides have seen a tremendous erosion of their first preference support. And I think that's a worry for the future. If the trend were to continue, then who knows where we'll be in future elections. I like the idea of certainty. I like the idea that I know that in the Parliament, whoever's the government will have a majority and will be able to rule and rule properly, rule without that sort of intervention and interruption that is caused by having too many independents running around the floor of the House. I'd much prefer to see the Liberals in power than I'd see us trying to scramble around and get the support of 10 independents. It's just never possible. All those independents have conflicting things that they want, and trying to satisfy them is just a nightmare. It's not worth even thinking about.
Holly Hughes, welcome.
Thank you.
To the show. Busy night, a very busy day. Now it's all washed up and you've had a chance to settle, and I guess the adrenaline's passed you, and we saw what Scott Morrison, how he reacted now that the adrenaline has gone through his body. Did Labor win by default?
Oh, absolutely. And well done, Richo, calling. But if we look at the seats that Labor actually lost, the seats that were lost by the Liberals to these teal fake independents, and I do think there needs to be an analysis here, because they're not independents and they're not a party.
So are you suggesting the electorate was tricked?
I think they need to be called out for what they are.
But everyone did that during the campaign.
Yeah, but, I'm talking the Electoral Commission and the law needs to have a look at how this worked. They were funded fundamentally by one source. They colluded together regularly. They had photos of themselves together on all their social media posts, let's get this done. They weren't even pretending they weren't, working together in a party. You can't run this "we want transparency" and then completely lie to the electorate that you're not part of a party. They're the Simon Home Accords party. That's who they are.
You can't deny, though, that there was a tremendous negative attitude towards the Prime Minister. They wanted him gone. You must have received that kind of communication on the hustings.
Look, we didn't in New South Wales, and I've got to be honest with you, I did over 12 seats, and I am shocked by a number of the results, because that was not the feedback we were getting on the ground. I know, talking to people in other states, yes, they weren't getting the same sort of positive messaging we were getting in New South Wales. But I was regularly having people come up to me saying how much they love me on this show, but also we can't have that lunatic Albanese gaff after gaff. He's going to, this guy doesn't understand a small business. He's never run one. He doesn't understand what it'll do to us. The guy doesn't know what his own NDIS plan was, let alone the unemployment rate. There were concerns being expressed to us, and I think that's reflected in the absolute lowest Labor vote we've ever seen, 31%.
I've got to say, in terms of what Anthony Albanese did in that campaign, Richo, he held a wonderful launch. He selected a wonderful city to launch the Labor Party's campaign. He handled it himself very well in those 3 debates, but the rest of it was not up to scratch. Have you seen a worse Labor campaign?
Well, I've seen some pretty poor campaigns in the past. This one was not a stellar effort. We could have done better. But the reality is we would appear to have done enough, because as far as I can see, we won. And I don't think when you win, you want to look back and look at it through downcast eyes. You should look back and say, wacko, look at this, we got
You
there.
take any win. A win's a win, especially in
We got
sport.
the chocolates.
Yeah, the same in politics. What about this idea that we're hearing from the Teals and the Greens that this is primarily an electorate that was driven by their need to save the planet from climate change?
Yeah, well, look, climate saviours are everywhere. I think I started the trend many years ago. And so I've been on board a long time. I still believe that there's, and obviously Australia believes, there's plenty of mileage in it. And so it's not something I dismiss out of hand. It's still a cause worth fighting for.
Was that one of the downsides of your campaign? I didn't hear too much from the Prime Minister about climate change.
No, I
He's
think
talking
we
to me now,
ignored it
Richo.
badly.
He's talking to me now, Richo.
Richo, let's while I'm still with
You
you.
may have won the election, but give me a go.
There wasn't too much of climate change on either side, Richo, was there?
No, not much. I don't think it featured in this campaign heavily.
Yeah.
Look,
Was that a mistake?
you know,
From our point of view, yes. We should have run harder on it.
You're very keen tonight, Richo. Give me a go.
He's jumping out of his skin.
Hey, and I thought you drank beer, mate. I heard you call the champagne out before. No, look, you know, I'm very concerned about this climate change. We know that we could shut down every industry in this country and we'll make zero difference to the global climate
So
change.
why do so many of these
You know what
fans
we
of the
can do?
Teals and the Greens think that we can change the weather from Australia?
Well, because they're all heavily invested in renewable energy hedge funds, and that's why they're so invested in it. And the people that voted for it, they have two cars generally, the Tesla and the Range Rover. And, you know, when they're driving around one part of the electorate, they drive the Range Rover in between their, you know, the lodge at the ski fields and the beach house and the house in the eastern suburbs or the North Shore
It
and
is
Northern
interesting
Beach.
that if you have a look at the list, Kooyong, Goldstein, North Sydney,
Mate,
Wentworth,
do as-
these are some of the wealthiest places in
Do as
Australia.
I say, not as I do. You know, these are also the people, as soon as the borders opened, were jetting off overseas to, you know, head to the flower show in London or catch up with their mates in Paris. So, you know, we're not exactly seeing people who live by their own standards. They just expect everybody else to. Quite frankly, I'm actually very scared for the state of the economy. We have a global situation where our coal is incredibly high demand. If we were sensible and serious about budget repair, we'd be pumping as much as that coal out of the ground and getting it around the world as fast as we can. Instead, we're going to have to deal with these lunatics who want to shut down coal mines, who want to introduce a carbon tax, and who are going to make it incredibly difficult for our budget ever to come back. We've got uranium here. Let me tell you, there'll be no one talking about a local...
But the Liberal Party didn't discuss nuclear.
Well, you know, maybe that's where we went wrong. I personally support a nuclear industry here and we should have one.
We've got to grow up like the rest of the world. We've got to grow up down the nuclear path.
We've got to be braver. We've got to have sensible discussion.
Bold and brave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
and not bold and brave over trans issues or these fringe issues. It's got to be, what are we doing as a nation? Where do we want to end up? Climate change. You want to talk about climate change? Nuclear is one of the cleanest forms of energy.
Yep.
Let's get serious about it. Let's not talk about... You want to charge your electric vehicle? Where are you getting your power from? And don't tell me it's your solar panels. Have you seen the queues in California when they're trying to charge their Tesla?
I want to ask you, if they don't reach 76 seats, we will be controlled by a pact between Greenies and Teal crossbenchers.
Yeah.
That can't be good for the country.
It's absolutely appalling for the country. And I think the problem for Labor is it could almost guarantee they're a one-term government because they will have such a problem dealing with these far left woke agendas. And we know, go woke, go broke.
What about the future for the Liberal Party? Do you install Peter Dutton quickly? Do you wait weeks before you even consider who the leader might be? What do you do?
Well, this is my first term where I've seen a change of leaders. So I've still got to figure out how that works. I don't know when we're going to have a party room meeting. I'd suggest it's probably going to be next week.
Don't you have to work out where your values sit and what the values are into the future before you work out who the leader is?
Well, I know where my values sit, and I know when I look at who put themselves forward, who I will be looking to support. But as I said, we don't have a field of candidates yet.
Do you want Peter Dutton to lead the party?
I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not going to speculate because I don't know who's.
What about
gonna
a
be.
woman to lead the party?
I think one of the persons who I do think should be, maybe she'll put her hand up for leader, but certainly deputy leader, I think should be Susan Lee. I think she's an outstanding member of Parliament.
I'll ask her that.
Look,
very
but
shortly.
I think Suze would be a fantastic choice. But I would like to say, Richo, you might have been on Sky last night. I was on another network, but I got a lovely message from your wife commenting on how gorgeous I was looking. So clearly she was more enthralled with my commentary than yours.
You looked hot too, Richo, don't worry.
Well, that's because she doesn't take a strong interest in politics.
Richo, what does the Liberal Party do from here? Does it turn and become more conservative with Peter Dutton, or does it go in another direction? Or don't you care?
I think, on a serious note, I mean, the Liberal Party has to stand for something. And I don't think at this election people knew what it stood for. Now, I don't know whether that means they go further left or further right, but they actually have to stand for something that matters, that resonates in Australia. And I don't think too many Liberal voters could actually articulate today what the Liberal Party stands for. It's drifted too many places too often. And what it needs to do is set itself a course and stick to it.
And one final one to you, Richo. How much of the old mad lefty will we see in Albo in the next 3 years?
No, the mad lefty left Albo a long, long time ago. He's a true centrist, and that's what you'll see from him. No flourishes to the left. It'll all be pretty sensible stuff.
OK. Graham Richardson, thank you very much for your time. Holly Hughes, great to have you in here.
Thank you so much, Chris.
There
See you,
you go.
Richo.
See you later, Holly.
Up next.